talking about Trump, I get too flustered in my head, and the shit that I wanted.
When I say fuck, you say Trump. Trump. Cause he's got our country up in America.
Eminem never needed an invitation to shake the table, but this time he flipped it over entirely. His words didn't just hit, they detonated. The man who built a career out of lyrical slaughter had finally set his sights on the one person whose ego was too bloated to dodge the impact. This wasn't the first time Eminem had fired shots at a sitting president. Back in the Bush era, he dropped verses that were practically policy critiques disguised as rap. But there was something different about this. Maybe it was the exhaustion of watching political chaos unfold like a bad reality show.
And I don't want to cause any controversy, so I won't say no names. But this motherfucker Donald Trump, I can't stand. So, before we get into this next song, Ready, we would like to request something of you. When I say fuck, you say Trump. Fuck!
Maybe it was the absurdity of a man who thrived off controversy finally being on the receiving end of a takedown he couldn't control. Either way, the world was primed for it. And Eminem knew it. When Eminem starts talking about Trump, he gets too flustered in his head, and the message he wants to convey just doesn't come out right. But this time, he unloaded with precision. His signature rapid-fire delivery, leaving no room for spin or misinterpretation. Every syllable hit like a hammer, each bar sharper than the last. The freestyle wasn't just a song, it was a verbal reckoning, and Trump was the main event. Eminem didn't hold back, targeting everything from Trump's failed business ventures to his reality TV-level politics. He reminded the world of the bankruptcies, the lawsuits, the university scam, how the so-called billionaire couldn't even run a state company without it flopping harder than one of his campaign speeches. And then there was the deep insecurity, the desperate need for celebrity approval. Trump had always wanted to be part of the Hollywood elite, rubbing shoulders with A-listers and soaking up their adoration. Instead, he was the punchline at every award show, the target of every late-night monologue, and now the subject of an Eminem takedown, so ruthless it felt personal. The intensity of the freestyle wasn't just in the lyrics, it was in the delivery. This wasn't polished, radio-friended Eminem. This was Slim Shady, unleashed, unfiltered, and unapologetic. His face contorted with raw emotion, his voice cutting through the beat like a battle cry. You could feel the frustration, the exhaustion of watching a country spiral into chaos, while the man at the center of it all threw Twitter tantrums, like a teenager who just lost a video game. And that's what made it resonate. It wasn't just another political critique from a news anchor or a carefully worded op-ed. This was raw, from the gut, anger, something people could feel. It spoke to the disillusionment, the rage, the sheer disbelief that this was the state of things. Eminem didn't just rap what people were thinking, he screamed it, making sure it echoed far beyond the walls of that recording booth. The moment the freestyle dropped, social media exploded. Fans dissected every line, picking apart the references, debating which was the hardest hitting punch. Even those who weren't typically into politics found themselves nodding along, caught up in the sheer energy of it all. Because when someone with Eminem's cultural weight speaks, people listen, Democrats and Republicans alike. Trump had spent years trying to make himself untouchable, but Eminem reminded everyone that no amount of wealth or power could protect someone from the truth. And when that truth is delivered at 100 words per minute with the force of a lyrical hurricane, there's no ducking it, no tweet, no spin, no weak deflection can make it go away. And just like clockwork, the meltdown began. Trump, a man whose ego is as fragile as a cheap dollar store snow globe, was never going to let Eminem's verbal blitz slide. The only question was how he'd respond: full volume rage, a clumsy attempt at humor, or the rarest of all Trump phenomena, awkward, defeated silence. The first sign of the impending tantrum was the all-too-familiar pattern, an ominous early morning Truth Social rant, the digital equivalent of a toddler throwing blocks across the room. Maybe it started with the usual greatest hits, calling Eminem washed up, a total loser, or even claiming he was never that good to begin with. The irony? Eminem's career was still thriving while Trump had been reduced to ranting into the void like a retired game show host who refuses to accept cancellation. Then came the deflections. Perhaps he tried to downplay the whole thing, insisting he didn't even know who Eminem was, because that always worked out well. The same man who bragged about being referenced in rap songs for decades was now pretending to be clueless. But we better give Obama props, because what we got in office now is a kamikaze that'll probably cause a nuclear holocaust. Well, the drama popped and he waited for the noise to quiet down. He'd just gas his plane up and fly around till the bombing stops. It was about as believable as his claims of self-made success. He had name-dropped rappers for years, grinning in photos with hip-hop legends when it suited him, basking in the glow of a culture that once tolerated his presence. Now he was the punchline, the cautionary tale, the guy everyone in the industry disowned. And it stung. If he got really desperate, he might have trotted out Don Jr. or another overeager sycophant to run damage control. Maybe Jr. hopped on a podcast, delivering an embarrassing, barely coherent defense, foaming at the mouth about how Eminem was just trying to be relevant. But let's be real, who was more desperate for relevance? The multi-platinum rapper still packing stadiums, or the guy throwing rallies in half-empty venues and selling bespoke influencer NFTs? And then there was the greatest Trump struggle of all: what to do when you can't sue your way out of humiliation. Eminem didn't defame him, didn't make anything up. He just laid it all out in lyrical form, holding a mirror up to Trump's failures in a way that couldn't be spun. No lawsuit, no legal threats, just cold, hard facts delivered with brutal efficiency. That's what made it worse. Eminem didn't just make fun of him, he rendered him powerless to what was left. Silence, the absolute worst-case scenario for a man who lives off attention. Because if he stayed quiet, it meant admitting defeat. It meant letting the internet run wild, letting the memes pile up, letting the late-night hosts have their fun. And most painful of all, it meant conceding that, once again, he lost the battle for cultural relevance. I'm right, I'm always right, I'm Donald Trump, I'm always right. I know a winner when I see one, and Donald Trump is telling you right now, Slim Shady is a winner. For a guy who spent his life desperately trying to be accepted by celebrities, there was no greater insult. And just like that, the internet did what it does best, turning a political takedown into a global spectacle. Within minutes, Eminem's freestyle was everywhere. Twitter, or X for the few still pretending to call it that, exploded with reactions. The hashtags were brutal, the memes were merciless, the ratio unforgiving. Comedians wasted no time jumping in. Late-night hosts lined up their monologues like battle formations, each one eager to add another jab to the carnage. Someone mashed up Trump's old, awkward dance moves from his rallies with Eminem's bars, creating a remix so cringeworthy that even Trump's most loyal fans had to look away. Then came the AI-generated chaos, some genius-edited clips of Trump awkwardly rambling into a deep-fake freestyle trying to clap back at Eminem. The auto-tune disaster made him sound like a malfunctioning GPS, spitting nonsense about record-setting crowds and perfect phone calls over a beat no one asked for. It went viral instantly. Meanwhile, influencers and musicians piled on, with other rappers slightly acknowledging the moment. Some quoted Eminem's lines in cryptic tweets, some simply posted popcorn gifs, and a few even hinted at dropping their own verses. The message was clear. Trump had stepped into the wrong arena. Hip-hop has always been the voice of the people, the unfiltered megaphone for the frustrations, struggles, and raw realities that politicians would rather sweep under the rug. Unlike sanitized political commentary on cable news, rap doesn't do scripted talking points or carefully crafted spin. It spits the truth, loud and unapologetic. Eminem didn't just drop a diss track, he threw down a cultural gauntlet, reminding everyone that music has the power to cut through the noise like nothing else. While traditional media dances around Trump's contradictions, afraid of losing access or alienating audiences, hip-hop doesn't care about playing nice. It doesn't owe anyone balanced coverage, and it doesn't sugarcoat. That's exactly why it works. When a rapper calls out a politician, it lands differently. It doesn't feel like another news segment. It feels like the streets talking, like real people saying what everyone's been thinking, but with better rhythm. Trump has tried time and time again to make pop culture his playground, but it never ends well for him. Whether it's Hollywood, late-night TV, or hip-hop, he's always the guy who crashes the party thinking he's the main event, only to get roasted and escorted out by security. You know the reason they bring him out and other people? They're bringing out all these other people. You know, nobody goes to their rallies, nobody goes to... So, you know what they do? They bring in so-called stars that I've never even heard of. You know, these are not stars to me. These are not stars to me. He desperately wants the approval of the entertainment world, but every time he steps into the ring with an artist, he gets lyrics bodied and mic'd into oblivion. This wasn't just another diss, it was another chapter in Trump's ongoing losing streak against pop culture. And if history has proven anything, it's that no amount of angry tweets, rally rants, or forced celebrity endorsements can save him from getting dragged every time he picks a fight with someone who actually knows how to hold a mic.
Talking about Trump, I get too flustered in my head, and the shit that I want to say, there's too many things I want to say at once. So sometimes I start talking and I'm not able to convey the message the right way because I just get flustered and frustrated. Watching him play to his base that thinks that he cares about them, and it's actually the people that he cares about the fucking least. If you're talking about his core being, you know, a majority white middle class, what I don't understand is how in the fuck do you feel like you relate to a billionaire who has never known struggle his entire fucking life? I will say this, he talks a good one. And if you're in his base, you're a core, let's say you're going to the rallies or whatever, you watch him on TV, you hear him talking this shit, there's part of me that understands like, all right, he's somehow still got them because he's brainwashing them into thinking that something great is gonna happen. Nothing's happening. Nothing is happening. I don't know, man. I get really flustered when I talk about it.
Now the question on everyone's mind, does Trump take the bait? History says yes. The man has the impulse control of a raccoon in a trash can. Maybe he fires off another all-caps meltdown, rambling about washed-up rappers while totally ignoring the fact that Eminem is still outselling half the industry. Maybe he attempts a lawsuit because when in doubt, sue and hope people stop talking about it. Or maybe, just maybe, he does the one thing no one expects, stays quiet. But let's be real, that's about as likely as him admitting he lost an election. The real impact of Eminem's words isn't just in the moment, it's in how it lingers. Younger voters, the ones Trump struggles to connect with, don't get their news from cable TV. They get it from viral moments, memes, and cultural takedowns like this. When someone like Eminem speaks, they listen, not because he's a politician, but because he isn't. He's one of the few voices who can cut through the noise, saying what millions are thinking with the kind of delivery that makes it impossible to ignore. This is why humor, music, and cultural moments matter. People might tune out another dry political debate, but they won't ignore a blistering freestyle that lays out the truth in a way that's both entertaining and impossible to unhear. And if Trump thinks he can fight back against that, well, let's just say the internet is ready with the popcorn.